It wouldn't be a NASCAR Sunday in New Hampshire without a little worry about the rain. But there is rain in the forecast, and we got to talk about it all. And to do that with me today, as ever, the Duke of the DFS Army, Taco. We might have a rainy race to deal with here today.
Cool. Luckily,
fun.
Like we were saying before the podcast, we have a recent example of exactly that at exactly this track, and we had 14 cautions.
Yeah, all within. So I think I went back and watched that race earlier this morning, and they slapped on the rain tires with like 100 or 80 laps to go, and then of those 80 laps, maybe 20 or 25 of them ran under green.
yeah,
I think
5 of those cautions were just Corey LaJoie.
Yeah, it might have been him. Good morning, Justin. I see HB Cards in there. What's up? Ed Gittins, what's up, Ed? Clint is here. Phil is here. Everyone's here. And
Dixon Sider not here, surprisingly.
Say it again.
Dixon Sider surprisingly not here.
He'll be here. You got to trust. He'll be here. So this whole race, has kind of got flopped on its head a little bit as the weather issues have continued to kind of fluctuate. Early in the week, kind of Thursday, Friday, it seemed like weather wasn't going to be a huge issue. At points yesterday, it seemed like it would be a huge issue. As late as last night, it looked like it wouldn't be an issue. And now we're kind of somewhere in the middle. It certainly is going to rain at New Hampshire within the next couple hours. We will see what that looks like as we approach race time. The good news is, for those who enjoy racing, they do have the wet weather tires. They will not run those tires in raining conditions. They will forego drying the track as a whole, strap them on, and run on a wet racetrack. So what they won't do also is they won't run in thunderstorms, though there has been adjustments to the thunderstorm policy that doesn't automatically mean a thunderstrike within the area is a 30-minute delay. So that's good. But we spent all night kind of projecting how this race would play out under dry conditions, and now we kind of just have to start over fresh. But again, we have some data. Bell was really good in the rain in 2024. Barry was really good in the rain in 2024. Briscoe really good in the rain in 2024. But I don't know, racing on ovals in the rain, at least in stock car, is a fairly modern concept. We don't have a ton of data points. I don't think any of us can look at this confidently and say, oh, bump this driver up if this is going to be a rain race.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, most of the time when they slap these wet tires on, they just wreck.
Yeah.
We saw years ago, the first time these got busted out, we saw Ty Dillon fly to the front. It's pretty fucking random. So that may just be the story of the day. It's just we're expecting some randomness here, some carnage. So feel free to get very different, because is this the most controversial front row starters that we've had all season? I think it is.
It could be. Jay Duncan, SVG to the rear. Not as of yet. Right now, all to the rear is Ty Dillon, Cody Ware already starting out back.
Yeah, I think he avoided going to the rear. I thought for sure he was going to go to the rear last year, and I have the most wasted money ever on SVG, most place differential. That's tough.
Yeah, that is tough, but it does not appear, at least as of yet, there's still 2 hours, so keep your eyes on Bob Pockers's Twitter or jski.com. Yeah, and I guess the other point of this, maybe we don't get any rain and this race plays out naturally, or maybe we get rain late in the race and this is a race to halfway that's going to cut the Dominator points in half. So with so many variables, we'll go through this as normal and talk about every driver and kind of their prospects in New Hampshire in general, but understand that there is an increased number of variables in this race, and that doesn't preclude you from playing this race at all. I just think you have to be more aggressive with your approaches and maybe less reliant on track history and just lean into the chaos a little more.
Yeah, Going to be an interesting one here for sure.
This
track, I feel like we've established the best comps by far are Phoenix and Richmond. Richmond because very similar. This is probably the short track where you can track. I think that track position matters the least here of all short tracks, and Richmond would be like a close second where you can easily knife through the field on the long run if you're fast. So it's a very good long run track. It's how we've seen guys like Ryan Blaney and Christopher Bell do so well, so consistently here.
Yeah. Any weatherman, type 1 if you're a weatherman. What does this look like to you? Because this is what we're dealing with today as we approach. This is green flag time, which looks like just like the end of a band of rain, and maybe it gets clear for a couple hours. So maybe a delayed start and then starting on wet weather tires.
Start when we move the start up.
Is probably the most likely scenario. But again, I'm not a weatherman, so if there's any weather people in the chat, what are we dealing with here? Okay, let's start. Again, I think the only way to approach this is just as normal and talk about this race as if it's going to play out somewhat naturally, but with the caveats of the carnage or the rain issues in mind. And we always start with pit road. As ever, pit road very important in the Cup Series. And, New Hampshire is kind of an average pit road, not more complicated, but not easier than any pit road. Just a normal number of incidents here on average. I also like the Monster pit box. Nice typo there. As ever, I think the way to approach this is we'll go over to Kalshi and we will look at the top drivers here and just look at their pit stalls and see how it looks. So it starts with Ryan Blaney, who's probably going to go off as the favorite to win this race. Blaney, where art thou, Ryan Blaney?
Right in the middle. He gets the
right there.
A real nice gap.
Yeah, probably be ahead of Ross Chastain all day with a nice gap out. That's a pretty good starting spot for Blaney. Then we have Christopher Bell in the 20 car. Chase Elliott behind him. If Chase Elliott gets in front of him in the running order and Bell has to come around him, that gets a little complicated, but a clear box in front of him, so that's positive. Denny Hamlin in the 11 car with Connor Zilich. That shouldn't be an issue, in a clear box ahead of him. Good spot for Denny Hamlin. Logano and Barry up next. Logano in the 22. In a bit of the fuzz here. He's got some less than competitive cars around him, but there's a lot of circumstance around him here, so maybe some concern for Logano. And lastly, we want to look at the 21 car. If I can find him. Right here. Carson Hocevar should be behind him most of the day. This is pretty good. So Logano the most concerning, I would say, and maybe a little concern with Christopher Bell, depending on how Bell and Elliott end up in the running order.
Yeah, I mean, in the Cup Series, usually the top 10 guys have the preferred pit, so it's fine. You really got to worry about the play stiff guys getting stuck back. But it's not too huge of an issue this week.
Doesn't seem to be. Chaos, does that mean play a lot of PD low cost, leave money on the table? I mean, there's different ways to approach it, right, Taco? You can you can play into the fact that this race might be to halfway, so place differential won't have as much time to operate, and we'll also have half the dominator points to dispense. Yeah, or you can just put everybody in a bingo cage and roll and pick out a ball, and knowing that maybe finishing position isn't going to be super tied to average running position or speed today on account of the rain. There's a bunch of different ways to approach it.
Yeah. I think the hybrid plays get nuked, looking mostly at Joey Logano, right? In a normal race, he would have a lot of actual dominator upside, but he needs the first two stages to actually get up and get into position to lead, and that completely nukes his lap leading upside. Should also see a lot of two tire calls. I feel like that's been the thing recently. We saw in the truck race, two tires was absolutely the way to go here.
Yeah.
I mean, the left side tire is so meaningless. Pit strategy lay along with the, we've seen a minimum of 8 cautions here in the 4 next gen races, the impending weather, all that suggests that we're looking at probably the highest expected amount of carnage at a short track that we've had this year.
Yeah. MetroCon, we do have wet weather tires. They won't run in the rain, but after the rain has stopped, they will do minimal drying to the track and then put the wet weather tires on. And Taco, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the procedure is once a track gets declared wet, everybody is brought down pit road and they have non-competitive pit stops to put wet tires on. Is that correct?
I think so.
I believe that is the procedure they used at Bowman Gray in the snow tires. So keep that in mind too. If the race, I think the race will start wet, if anything, so this won't be a factor. But if they start dry, the track gets declared wet, then everybody has to come down non-competitive, put wet tires on. After that, the track can get declared dry, but nothing has to happen mandatory. You can keep wet tires on, you can put the slicks on, you can do whatever. So
confirmed that yes, when they go back when they're forced to put on wet tires, they get non-competitive stops.
There you go. So the running order will be maintained if we go from a dry to wet condition, but I think if anything, we'll start under a wet condition today. Case Smooth, good to see you. Just checking in. No DFS or betting today. If you don't hit the two dominators, there's no upside. Also, DK doesn't have driver versus driver bet. So I'm a pass. I don't blame you a bit, Case Smooth. This could be a very chaotic week. As far as quality of pit crew, we did have some movement after Richmond. So we'll go to the pit stop analyzer. William Byron continues to have the fastest pit crew on average. Now, if you're not used to using this tool, this uses an average of the fastest 4 pit tire stops, but there's a delay built in, or a decay built in, I should say. So fast pit stops recently at Richmond and Iowa are worth much more than fast pit stops at Bristol or Martinsville earlier in the year. Joey Logano has really been moving up the board in that regard. William Byron continues to be very fast on pit road. Briscoe and Bell carry the torch for JGR. But as Joey Logano's improvement on track continues to play out, his improvement on pit road continues to be pretty notable too. Though I need to fix this pit stop because he definitely didn't have a 7-second pit stop. That is a data error. Thank you, NASCAR.
Can I make a pitch to you real fast?
I would love a pitch.
Is there any way that Fast Lap could provide a pit road incident rate, as in like percentage of stops that are like significantly slow, pit penalty, what have you? I feel like that would also be very valuable.
I can figure something out, I'm sure. We can work on that. Does this include 2 tire stops? This doesn't, but you can include 2 tire stops here or filter out to only 2 tire stops. So Chase Elliott, the best at 2 tire stops, evidently.
They might come into play this week, but there are probably less 2 tire stops to look at. And also those stops tend to be a bit more chaotic.
Yeah. I need to fix this. This is a pretty glaring thing that I didn't notice. This 7-second pit stop is not real. This is a data error by NASCAR. So I need to fix this. So bump Joey Logano down a few spots, but his pit crew still has been very good the last couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. I will fix that over. You can also spread this out to kind of... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just saying, where's Blaney? He's the important one here today.
Yeah, Blaney continues to be not super good on pit road, continues to struggle. And it's not that they're not capable of good pit stops. 9.4, 9.3, these are really solid pit stops. It's just to your point, Taco, and maybe this is something I need to build out, the incident rate, 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds. You're not seeing those 10-second stops for a guy like Chase Briscoe. It's just consistent. I mean, but consistently 9s, 8s, 8s, 9s, 9s. That is the difference between what Ryan Blaney has on pit road right now.
Yeah, I think looking at their 10 best stops does show their team ceiling, which helps when they're firing on all cylinders. But I think there's more to lose on pit road than there's to gain.
Absolutely. Outside of SVG and Bell, who else thrives on the wet weather tires?
There's not enough data to fucking know that.
Yeah. Oval, at least in stock cars, wet tires on the oval are a pretty modern concept. And I think we've only had maybe 4 instances of it. Most recently at Bowman Gray, and then a couple years ago at New Hampshire. Bell was really good at New Hampshire. Preece obviously won that race at Bowman Gray on the snow tires.
Blaney was good at this
Blaney
race.
Was fine at Bowman, but he to your point, Chamberlain, he struggled at New Hampshire.
No, he was good at New Hampshire. He got taken out by Michael McDowell when he was like second place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any data or if there's any driver background. I assume I would lean towards the dirt guys just because inherently the track is going to be more correction heavy. But I also think the next gen car kind of nerfs that skill set a little bit with the fast hands and micro corrections that dirt car guys are so good at. So I don't know if I have a great answer for you.
SVG might be the only like tangible one.
Yeah, because he has run infinitely more times in wet conditions than anybody else in this field. Okay, with that in mind, let's head over to the research station and look at the historicals tab. Like I said, we're going to approach this as if somehow, some way, this race plays out naturally. But we will make adjustments based on how this plays out if it gets rain. If rain plays a factor. But last year was a really, really strange race. We had 3 drivers starting inside the top 3 score the most points. Ryan Blaney and Joey both had dominator points in terms of laps led. Josh Berry had dominator points in terms of fast laps. All 3 of those guys were in the top 6, and then the rest was pure place differential. And that's kind of pretty consistent with what we see at New Hampshire. If you go back a year before that in 2024, this was the rain race. So this was the last third stage played out in the rain. And that became very much almost a plate style race. You had the winner of the race hit the optimal. The rest was pure place differential. Only really one dominator in that situation.
I mean, that's about exactly what you would expect for a rain race. So this is
probably the type of build that you're looking to have today. So yeah, your winner, your main dominator, and then place differential, or a guy like Tyler Reddick, who very relevant today, could steal 50 laps led and then get a decent finish. You go back to 2023, this was much more in line with the 2025 run. No rain in the forecast, just pure domination by Martin Truex Jr. This was a one dominator race. We seldom see that at New Hampshire.
Yeah, this track is it's a completely different racetrack, I think, without Truex. Truex was so dominant here.
Yeah. SVG did not have to go to the rear, at least as of yet. As of right now, with 2 hours until lock, SVG will be legitimately starting 5th. Though I do think if news breaks that he drops to the rear, it wouldn't change my projection. Because you're probably not playing a ton of SVG regardless starting from 5th. And if he drops, then everybody else is going to come off him, and all of a sudden you have leverage. So
I would argue SVG's actually he's actually done really, really well when he starts top 10 at these short tracks, and really bad when he doesn't.
Yeah, so I think he's playable, but I still playable means 10%. You're not playing SVG at 30% anyway.
Playable on FanDuel primarily.
3 DOMs would seem excessive today given the context, Clint. Just there is a potential this is a 150 lap race. There's potential that this is a rain race, which increases carnage, which increases the chance that a dominator gets taken out and we wipe dominator points off the board. 3 DOMs feels like too much. Have we had 3 DOMs here? I mean, last year, kind of, if you count this.
Last year is the coolest optimal ever.
Yeah, very strange.
That's something you would hand build yourself and go, fuck it.
And make no mistake, we'll talk about this. Josh Berry was the best car last year.
50 fast laps is dominating.
And full-blown wrecked at one point in that race. So let's head over to the DK average by start panel here. And Taco, assuming rain or chaos doesn't come into play, what do you notice here about New Hampshire as a whole when it comes to drivers' season-long prospects versus their prospects today?
Yeah, I mean, most of their short tracks, the front 2 rows pretty good, but really kind of the have and have not of guys starting top 20 just doing way better than guys starting 20th on back. Usually qualifying is pretty predictive for a race like this, but I mean, they qualified at 10, 11 in the morning. It was kind of strange, the conditions, and we're going to be expecting colder, grippier conditions today. So I think it'll race a lot differently than in practice and qualifying.
Yeah. things that I would note here. Good drivers are good at New Hampshire for the most part, but this kind of middle section, 5th to 12th, very rarely do we see drivers score well, regardless of season-long standing. You really want to be starting in those front 2 rows to grab early dominator points or have the benefit of place differential to score highly. Pretty linear for everyone else, unless you are a mid-tier driver. Starting in the first 2 rows, it really doesn't matter. The further back, the better, as ever. But a driver starting 17th to 20th can score just as well as a driver scoring starting back in the 30s. And very rarely do we see back marker type cars score very well at a place like New Hampshire.
Yep.
The floor today, very hard with the potential rain, but a little lower than usual, I would say. 48 to 55, because we do see 2 high salary dominators a lot. So your floor, you're really looking for at least 45 points out of a driver. That's the potential you need. But closer to 55 certainly feels a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, and there's that chance that we just have to punt all the way down. I think especially this week with how hard it is down low to really find good plays. This comes down to whether or not this is a complete carnage fest or not, which it's looking more like it is than in previous years.
Yeah. As far as the pole sitter here, not necessarily the pole sitter, but the front row, it seems like a coin flip where the dominator comes from.
Yeah. We've seen, I think most of the time it's a Penske guy starting second. Like, what was it last year? We had Ryan Blaney starting second. Year before that, Ryan Blaney starting second. So yeah, Ryan Blaney definitely skewing that.
And we definitely, have a similar situation here with Josh Berry versus Tyler Reddick. We'll talk about that earlier, but it seems like we're going to get an early dominator from the front row, and it seems like the industry in this chat, and myself included, is leaning Josh Berry.
Josh Berry is plus 500.
That's crazy.
Like, in what world is Josh Berry plus 5? He's actually worse than SVG. I think kind of talking about in the Discord earlier, like, he's actually worse at SVG when it comes to being a one-trick pony, because his splits on and off short flat tracks are atrocious.
Yeah. Ed, I just got an email from Ed. I don't know if you're still in the stream, Ed, but I will get your Fast Lap, your update account updated right after the show. I just have to log into some stuff I can't do on stream, but I will get your Fast Lap account updated. And for anybody else in the stream, if you are a DFS Army member and you want access to Fast Lap, you get it for free. Just shoot me a message on Discord or hit the contact button at the top of fastlap.io and send me the email you use to sign up at DFS Army, and I will get you added to Fast Lap as well. I will do that after the show, Ed, as soon as the show ends. Barry in the wet is terrifying. He was pretty good here in the SHR car in 2024. The wet didn't seem to bother him much, and I'm sure over the course of his very long late model career, there has been short track promoters that were optimistic with their approach to a wet racetrack. So I'm sure he's raced on plenty damp racetracks in his time. I like getting a little goofy with my salary range today, Derek. So I don't mind leaving 1,500 on the table at some point. So I don't think this is the worst idea in the world. Yeah, but I wouldn't go much. I don't know, Taco. Would you go much lower than like 1,500 as your left on the table?
This week, fuck it, why not?
Yeah, it really depends on the level of carnage you anticipate,
which
or not even carnage, just randomness.
Yeah. You want to look through the 2024 lap by lap to see the difference before and after rain.
Yeah. So the rain came at what? I think
it's worth noting early, like when we look at these other short flat tracks, they tend to just be the same number left to right, but you could see the passing early on is real.
Yeah.
The fast cars do sort themselves very quickly.
And this is about when the rain
hits. Yeah. This is the problem. Like, if we're wondering who's good or who's bad at on the wet tires, is like most of the time it's just this.
Yeah. And where is the restart? I think it must be here. I would encourage you to go back and watch this restart, because Bell had to restart in 9th and he drove up to 3rd in 2 corners. It is a very good restart. When everybody was searching for grip on the low line, he just went in the high line and passed about 6 cars in 1 corner. Very, very good. But yeah, you can see this is a boat when the rain starts here, boat lap 215, 216. And you can see just how colorful this chart gets as people kind of shuffle positions versus how static it is in dry conditions. This is the randomness that is kind of terrifying from a DFS perspective.
Yeah, and a lot of these wrecks were just like the rain coming, like they're reporting rain, and then they throw the flag after, like, you know, guys like Kyle Busch had spun around. Like, you're gonna get a bunch of innocent guys nuked whenever it's a rain race like this.
Yeah, and to your point, Corey LaJoie, he's like, I got this. No, I got this. Oh,
the fact he finished like better than like 15 people is crazy.
Yeah. But this is what's so concerning about wet weather conditions is they are, I mean, and you can see
we're going to plan for it, you know, we'll be prepared.
I guess the concern is you build for this and it never comes, or you don't build for this and it does come, but you got to be prepared.
Split approach, I think, is the way to go. We were talking about that in the Discord earlier as well.
Absolutely. We will look at practice times because it's the first time we finally got a full 1 hour practice session. This is the new standard going forward. And so as part of that, teams get a full hour. They can use them however they want. And they get 2 tires to strap on their cars. So you need to be wary. And you can kind of see it here. Let's use Ryan Blaney. Actually, terrible example. Where can I find somebody where it was very clear? Okay, here's a great example. Chase Briscoe does his first run, about 30 laps, comes in, puts his second set on, and has a much cleaner run. So if you're using this run, you're probably not going to have a whole lot of optimism when it comes to Chase Briscoe. But if you cut that run off, and let me just, this makes it a lot easier. If I put the whole session. So you can see 2 distinct runs here. But if you compare that to a guy like Kyle Larson, his second run started much earlier. So it's even more difficult to compare lap by lap. Like, to compare Chase Briscoe's lap 37 now is much different than comparing it to Kyle Larson's lap 37. So you have to be very, very aware of this chart to know when their second run or when the second set of tires came on when you're analyzing practice times. The way I like to do this is just bump off the majority of the field's first run, and then by using an average or using the best laps, you're going to get the best 10 laps of the second run. So we pretty much fully disregard the first run in this situation, but you need to be very, very careful, because you can even see it in the heat maps. If you're trying to compare like every lap after lap 30 for Eric Jones, who didn't make a second run, to Chase Elliott, who made a very clear second run, you're going to get a very different picture than reality. So you need to be really, really careful when analyzing practice going forward.
Yeah, I think this is one of those practices where you got to look at the lap chart and not the lap averages. I think fading them is kind of the way to go if there's egregious differences. But also, like, we're at the end of a month of just consecutive short tracks, and I feel like we know who's going to be fast at this point. I don't think a whole lot has changed.
And to your point earlier, this practice happened first thing in the morning, sun rising. Now they're going to be racing in the afternoon, cloudy conditions, probably a green racetrack. Not sure how reliable these metrics are, but we will take a look at them. I think the fastest car overall, Ryan Blaney, as ever, we know to expect this kind of pace. This is his second run. Josh Berry was significantly faster on his second run and maintained that average through that run. I think Josh Berry legitimately has a case at being the fastest car when you look at the practice session, at least.
Yeah, I think looking at it unadulterated, I'm pretty sure you get to William Byron, and I don't really believe that. I'm not a believer in, I don't think Hendrick is even in play this week after the whole month that we've just witnessed of them not mattering.
Yeah.
Vegas is finally on board with that. They've kind of nuked them from orbit. But William Byron, of course, qualified well and looks really good in practice. And I just feel like we've seen that a lot, and it's never mattered.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is.
I'm going to use Ryan Blaney and Josh Berry as the metric because I think we know that is. I thought of any Hendrick car. Chase Elliott looked the most comfortable. Now he's got a ton of place differential, so that's kind of makes it not super relevant. His pace
that into qualifying like 29th.
Yeah. Denny Hamlin, we never really rely on his practice times, but it's very similar to Blaney. Christopher Bell looked a little more uncomfortable than we're used to seeing Christopher Bell, pretty far off in his second run what Blaney and Berry were able to produce. Chase Briscoe, just kind of all over the place. Not super useful to use his practice times at any racetrack. But the other one worth looking at here was Tyler Reddick. That's what I was looking for. He was way off in practice.
Yeah.
Way off. Like the commentators were remarking on how bad he was in practice, and then he went and got the pole. I think this delta is what is making the industry so bullish on Josh Berry getting the lead early to this race, because you look at Josh Berry's first couple laps in his second run, he's running 29.3s versus Tyler Reddick's 29.7. That's 0.4. That is significant. So I think, well, it's no secret, I think you almost have to treat Josh Berry like the pole sitter here.
Yeah, I think that should be the expectation, which is crazy because he's Josh Berry. He's 8,200. But, I mean, Reddick, like, it just passes the eye test, too, because Penske dominant this last week. Just, you've seen Logano, you've seen Blaney crush the races respectfully. But, I mean, last week you saw Berry and Cindric run top 10 all race. You could argue that Austin Cindric was the fastest car in that field at a track he's never done well at. And Josh Berry here has been fucking elite, second and third place finishes, and one of those in Stuart Haas equipment. Like,
yeah,
it makes a lot of sense. And Tyler Reddick is someone who rarely, if ever, gets a top 10 at a short flat track. So him being the de facto pole sitter makes a lot of sense at a place where there's no real pole sitter advantage. There's not really a super preferred lane.
Yeah. And Derek, Cindric looking chalky here. I agree. But he was significantly, and I with you with your concern, he was significantly off what his teammates were doing in practice, and that has been the case over the last couple of years. Cindric has not been impressive at New Hampshire, despite his teammates being pretty dominant here every time.
That was the case at Richmond. He was fucking awful at Richmond. And let me look at his Richmond practice here real quick. Oh no, he was super fast last week.
No, I think yeah.
No, yeah. I think it was Richmond. Like, he had terrible like finishes and stuff, right? But it didn't end up mattering.
Yeah.
But he was super fast in practice last week with their Group A. So him being off in practice, while we've seen it before not matter in the past, like, it's still a little concerning. Should probably keep him from being super duper chalk.
Yeah.
And there are also other plays in that range that are a little bit better, I think.
I will say, when it comes to Cindric, it does appear that he did just take one long run. Maybe didn't use that second set of tires.
I mean, that could explain the entire thing away too. So it's worth looking at everybody individually.
Still, we'll get, when we get into the driver by driver, we'll talk a little more about Austin Cindric. But this hasn't been a great race.
He didn't take any. He took like 3 laps after like 25 minutes into practice. So I would ignore Cindric's practice completely.
Yeah, it looks like he just used that second set for a qualifying sim here at the end. Yeah. Just one single lap. So we'll talk about it as we go through. Okay. With that in mind, before we get into it, type 1 if you're ready for the driver by driver. Before we do that, dfsarmy.com/NASCAR. Get access to all the tools we're using here today. The domination station, the research station, the coaching notes. You also get complete access to fastlap.io. I will update everybody's access after this podcast. So just shoot me a message somewhere and I'll get you added. If you're a DFS Army member, you get access to FastLap as a whole as well. All the tools. Look at all the ones. They're ready, Taco. They're ready. DFSarmy.com/NASCAR. If you want, just here's what you got to do. You're watching this video. right now. You scroll down, you hit the like button on the way down. That's mandatory. Mandatory hitting of the like button. In the description, there's a link here. You can click that link. It'll take you right to the pricing page. Go down to NASCAR. You can get signed up. We are clean and green through the rest of the season. 13 more weeks, 12 more weeks of NASCAR coverage every weekend. Get signed up. Use code FASTLAP. Gets you 15% off lifetime. One of the biggest deals we're going to do all year. That's code FASTLAP. DFSArmy.com/NASCAR. Link in the bio. And if nothing else, if you don't want to spend a dime, I don't blame you. It's tough out there. At least hit the like button for me. It goes a long way. Okay. There's a lot of ones, Taco. I think people are ready to get into the driver by driver. Yeah. Before we do that, I want to go to the practice. I want to bump off. This is harder to do. This is going to be kind of wonky.
Sketchy. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just going to take 20, but again, we're taking that with a grain of salt.
I looked again at Austin Cindric's practice, and yeah, he ran one single qual lap after his first run. His first run, he ran at the same time as Blaney and was keeping up with him. So I'm not concerned there.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get into that as we go. Anyway, it all starts up top with Ryan Blaney. I feel like we have made a pretty good dent, or I don't even know that we've done well fading Ryan Blaney is what I'm trying to say. Over the course of the last couple of weeks, North Wilkesboro, Iowa, Richmond, he went off as the favorite for most of those races and ended up not performing super well. I think it's time we turn the ship, because if this race plays out naturally and there's not a bunch of nonsense with the wet weather, I think Ryan Blaney is the rightful favorite here. We've seen him be super dominant here in the past and super fast. We know he has pace. We know how good he is at getting front turn in his car. The difference between North Wilkesboro and Richmond, when it seemed like Ryan Blaney, and Iowa for that matter, where it seemed like Ryan Blaney was the speed and it turned out to be Joey Logano, is Joey Logano is much, or at least a little bit better than Blaney at those tracks. I don't think he holds that advantage over Joey Logano at New Hampshire. We've seen Blaney pass Joey Logano on track a few times at this track that we haven't seen at the last ones. I think Blaney is the rightful favorite here. He's my favorite DFS play today. I think this is your most likely race winner. Concerns being pit crew is still terrible, though New Hampshire, you can overcome that. And the rain could just throw a huge wrench into this whole thing. But I am less concerned about Ryan Blaney this week than I have been other weeks.
Yeah, the main concern is that it's going to be hard to afford him. This is a stingy slate. And there's just the narrative that's getting kind of harder to ignore, is that whenever Blaney unloads fast, he never wins. But you don't need to win DFS also. You could just dominate the first half of the race, and that's cool. So that's more of a betting thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, rightful favorite, as you should be. Not overwhelming by any means, because this is still kind of wide open to really the top, 5 guys here. There's like a clear tier if you just look at like the odds board, right? There's all the Penske guys, Bell and Hamlin, and then there's that second tier between like Byron through like Briscoe.
Yeah,
you can almost look at this race in tiers, and that's about where the you can expect the dominators to come from. Like those top 5 guys are clearly the top candidates to lead laps and whatnot. Then the second tier of guys kind of are like, okay, well, if this happens, they'll do pretty good, but there's some things going against them. And then the rest of the field is just place differential. And I think the place differential probably is going to matter more than getting the Dom right is obviously important here, but it's going to be a lot easier to predict like who's going to get the dominator points. You almost want to not necessarily mix and match up top, but there's just a case to be made for a lot of these guys. So, Blaney's case is that he's just been probably the best car here over the last 3 years outside of his teammates. If you look at speed-wise, 2024, 2023, those finishes were bad, but he was actually really, really fast in those. Like at 2024, the rain race, there were 9 laps to go. Michael McDowell just wiped him out. 2023, he was the second best car in the field. Also got taken out, finished 22nd. And that can happen to anyone here. Like, that's another thing we've got to realize, is that any of these top guys could just get wiped out. The carnage race, the attrition rate here has been kind of nuts. So Blaney, if you can afford to get to him, I mean, by all means, go for it. Again, it's just a matter of finding the money to pay up for Mr. Ryan Blaney here.
Yeah. And Chance, if rain is a factor, causes delays, or rain tires, would better have more drivers starting in the top 10 or more place differential. I think rain trends towards place differential for two reasons. One, it stands to shorten the race. So we could be dealing with a 150 lap race. That's 150 laps less dominator points. That means the value, the total number of points available is reduced, and the value of a place differential point gets raised. So place differential there, and also just the carnage, the shaking of the order becomes more prominent. So you have more place differential drivers potentially. So I tend to think if rain is a factor, you need to lean further into place differential. Taco, am I on the right track there?
Look at Charlotte, right?
Yeah.
We already had a shortened race this year, and we saw Suarez just get the win. We've seen that many times before. It's how Justin Haley got his win. Like, guys are going to be gambling and throwing, you could have just Hail Mary winners when it comes to these rain shortened races, or people staying out really long and gambling and it backfiring. Plus, something we haven't talked about here is that if you're in positions like 13 through 16, maybe in the point standings, you're racing an entirely different race. Like, it's starting to get into desperation time because we've just got Daytona left.
Yeah.
And you can't bank on anything happening at Daytona. So this race, I think people on the playoff cut bubble are going to, like, it's kind of a real make or break race for them.
Yeah. And to your point, you look at Charlotte, that was a rain affected race. Daniel Suarez, average running position 21st. He wins the race. William Byron, average running position 19th. He finishes 9th. You get a lot of shakeups in these rain situations that trend towards place differential. Kind of the forgotten soldier here. Denny Hamlin will start P4, which in context of New Hampshire is a great starting spot for Denny Hamlin, but I'm not hearing a lot of discourse about him. And it's probably because he's been just okay at New Hampshire, and honestly, just okay over the course of the last couple of weeks, as we've kind of seen these Penske style tracks trend everything towards Blaney and Logano. But I think this is a fine opportunity to get some leverage on Denny Hamlin, who does have ability at New Hampshire, had a ton of fast laps here back in 2024 before the rain came. We know he's capable. He's been pretty solid at just about any short track before we went to Richmond in Iowa. So I think the opportunity to get a bit of leverage on him here is pretty rare. And we know that someplace somewhere that Toyota advantage still exists. And while I think most people would attribute that to Christopher Bell at New Hampshire, I think this is a rare opportunity to get a little bit of leverage on Denny Hamlin in this situation.
Yeah, and we've seen his best race here come at the rain race, I guess, for what it's worth. He's finished top 5 at all of the short flat tracks this year. However, he hasn't really been dominant outside of Martinsville, which is, it's just fucking Martinsville. So not a very good comparable track here. So he is going to be very live to dominate stage 1 with just a real uncertain front row starting there. I think someone also mentioned earlier potentially Byron also being in the same position, possibly also leading early on, or we could even see just like a climber and riser get into the mix, especially later on in stage 1 if it were to go green. So Hamlin, you're kind of paying up here. Probably a spot where most people are going to look to go underweight if you're really paying up. I mean, he's just outshined by Blaney and Logano, just being Penske guys. Penske the heavy favorite this week, and of course Bell. It's just being his track. I think that's going to lead to some lower-owned Hamlin than we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
If you want to take a stand on Hamlin, I think that is incredibly valid way to go about it this week. He seems to have a lot of plot armor this year. I just don't know about the domination upside. And really he's kind of struggled to get like fast laps here, which isn't the best sign. Because he's kind of just been like an okay but too expensive play to really do anything sort of play for you here at this over the last month of short tracks that we've been to.
Yeah. Christopher Bell will start in sixth at 10-7 salary. And I see some questions about different guys. We'll get to everyone. I promise we'll get to every single driver in the field. I'm just too stupid to jump around like that. My brain gets out of sorts. So we got to do them in order. I'm sorry. That's my shortcoming. Christopher Bell starts sixth, as Denny Hamlin said on his podcast, or Chase Briscoe said on Denny Hamlin's podcast this week. This is Christopher Bell's playground. He's won 50% of the races here at New Hampshire in the next gen era, and significant fast laps in all of them up until last year when he was pretty pedestrian at New Hampshire, despite being a pretty overwhelming favorite. Not sure how to process how kind of average he was here last year. Ended up finishing sixth, but did not have the speed that we had seen the 3 years prior. I think the lore of Christopher Bell at New Hampshire is still going to serve to push his ownership a little higher than is comfortable. Be a little difficult to get leverage on Christopher Bell in this situation. So I kind of find myself matching the field, if not being a little underweight here. But I think we have to acquiesce that, Bell could certainly drive through the field and dominate this race as we've seen him do before.
Yeah. So this race feels a lot more like 2024 than 2025. That's going to be the real thing that keeps him from being uber chalk, right? Is that he was uber chalk here last year and was just mid, just straight up mid. Disappointed probably like 60% of the field that owned him. Now he had his track record at New Hampshire. It's probably like one of the best of anyone outside of maybe AJ Allmendinger at the Roval or some shit. Like he literally went 4 for 4 and wins here in the Xfinity series. I'm gonna dead name it because that's what it was called when he was doing that. Did run the truck race last night. Was low on equipment. Was okay, right? And so you got to think: is it going to be more like last year, or is it going to be more like years previous? Because years previous, he just look at fast laps, he was clearly better than everyone else outside of Martin Truex Jr., who's no longer in the Cup Series. So, if you're willing to look past last year and his super mid performance there, he comes off as a really good play, and it's kind of in line with what the market thinks here, with him being the second favorite to Blaney for valid reason. And he's also just been solid, just racking up second place finishes throughout the course of the year. Even if he doesn't win, that's fine. I think he's just in the mix. I don't know. I actually am kind of just dead even, maybe just a slight touch lower than the field on the ownership wise here. And that's just because I'm going to go really heavy Penske like everyone else. I think it's just Penske being so good across the board.
Yeah.
Is probably going to trump Bell.
I would say, too, the other thing for Bell, not that we need to bolster him up at a place like New Hampshire, but the correlated tracks we've been to so far this year, Phoenix, Iowa, and Richmond.
Yeah.
He led 175 laps led at Phoenix, 107 laps led at Iowa, only 30 laps led at Richmond. But he has been right there with Logano as the best on correlated tracks this year as well.
Yeah.
I also wanted to look at this. You can see Christopher Bell, after practice kind of to fall down. He's since recovered to where kind of he was for most of the week. But there certainly was some concern in the market during practice sessions, though it's kind of settled back at 15%.
Yeah.
Joey Logano will start 21st. This is a place differential play that kind of complicates the whole slate, because I think it's fair to assume that Joey Logano is going to drive through the field as long as this race isn't super impacted by weather. I will say, I think Logano is the least interesting of the Penske plays, and I use the word interesting intentionally to include Austin Cindric, but I kind of feel, I don't know what it is, and I don't think I could articulate it, but I find myself wanting to be underweight on Joey Logano, given the potential chaos of this race, given how good I think Ryan Blaney will be, and given how much easier your builds become if you don't have to include Logano in them.
Yeah, because he's got to be your second option. You need the early Dom to go with him, like a Hamlin, Blaney, Bell type, whatever. Barry, of course. He kind of makes it easy. Well, we'll get to Barry, but Logano, I think, is going to be affected the most by whether or not this race gets shortened, which it probably won't, right? Like, I think we were talking before the pod, like maybe like 5 to 8 races per year on average have like weather in the discussion where we're talking about a shortened race, but only like one race each year on average gets shortened. So, we're going to throw like the likelihood of this thing being shortened at what? Like, what percentage would you say? Like 70, 80% that it runs all 301 laps? If it runs all 301 laps, Joey Logano is probably the best play on the entire slate. If it gets shortened, that he is affected more than anyone else in the entire slate, because he is him and Briscoe would be the two, because they're both hybrid dominator plays. And they're both guys we saw dominate just last week, right? They were the two dominators. And he's been wicked fast here every single year. Like, he's been right there with Blaney on speed, second, first, and third in speed rank here the last 3 years. Dominated the crap out of this race last year. Like, that was from the pole, right? Didn't have to work his way through the field. So he's someone that is, if the carnage really comes in, it's gonna kind of nerve him, even though he's a play stiff guy.
JD2, are we concerned about Logano's drop off after 30 laps? I would say no, because the calling card of Penske has kind of been their long run pace anyway. What is more concerning is he was not significantly, but he was markedly slower than Blaney and Barry across the entire run. I would say that is more of a concern for me. It kind of leveled out towards the end of the run, but I do think he is, at least when you're judging by practice, the least impressive of the Penske cars starting in the front half of the field. I don't know. It's just one of those gut feelings where I feel like it's time to back off of Joey here and maybe move towards Blaney and Barry and some other guys. And the fact that there's rain and potential carnage or chaos or randomness in this race included, that bolsters that idea.
I mean, I think he's appropriately priced ownership-wise, because he's projected to be 43% owned, and he has a 44% implied top 5 chance here. Yeah. And 21st to 5th is probably optimal with the expected amount of fast laps he's going to get.
Absolutely.
Penske speed. So, just him and really a lot of these guys so far. I'm kind of like with the field. I don't want to go too strong one way or the other. That's why I'm kind of getting more different lower in this field, and kind of more so just mixing and matching up top. I think that's just the way to do things at short tracks, where the dominator sometimes gets handed a bit randomly, and it really comes, and it's more predictable to just attack people like in the mid and lower parts of the slate.
Yeah, I'm with you, AFC. It's, for me, this is 100% just a kind of game theory play. Life just gets so much easier if you're underweight on Joey Logano here, and I think you can tell yourself enough of the story that you can palate being a little underweight. Chase Briscoe starts 17th at a track that he has been fairly mid at. He does have the second place finish here in 2024, but we know the circumstance behind that race. Other than that, it's been outside of the top 10 in terms of speed every race. I will say, at a certain point, do we just have to use Martin Truex Jr.'s track history when handicapping Chase Briscoe? Because he continues to overperform and dominate at tracks that he's been terrible at since he's been in this Joe Gibbs car, including Richmond last week, where he has been terrible for his entire career and suddenly became the favorite to win that race. So maybe there's some upside there with the Martin Truex Jr. connection, but I still feel like this is a big number to lay for a guy that doesn't necessarily feel like there's a ton of dominator upside without some rain or randomness into this race. And even still, he would need a career best finish outside of 2024 to hit the optimal here.
I mean, Martin Truex Jr. was the fucking truth here.
Yeah, like, absolutely.
He was so goddamn good, and I don't know. I think the notes help. I don't think it's like a magic setup. You just kind of plug and play like it's iRacing, but I mean, it helps a lot. And if on the odds books, you're really not laying a big number. Plus 1,800 is pretty damn cheap.
Yeah, he hasn't really
Hampshire as well, right? It's just
he's been pretty steady on Kalshi. Like the market not really reacting to anything going on this weekend. He's just kind of held steady.
If you're pivoting off of Logano, though, this is the other Logano type hybrid play on the slate. There's really only two. And yeah, he's going to be the much lower owned, much more bespoke version of Logano there. And this is, again, you're betting on Penske here. And I think Angelo said something earlier about Chase Briscoe. Like, why wouldn't you just rather go Briscoe of chasing a Toyota, right?
Yeah.
Over Hamlin. Just cheaper. That's play stiff to work with. You know, I just wouldn't chase last week too hard.
Yeah.
It's kind of in a similar spot. I don't know. Probably gonna go overweight on him just because he's so much lower owned than Logano.
I think again, this is kind of just a let the field decide. Like 22 to 25% feels right for Chase Briscoe. If the field goes underweight on him, then I'm happy to be in a position where I'm underweight or I'm overweight. But if the field's going to play him at 30 to 35%, I'm happy to be underweight. I don't have a firm opinion either way. I just kind of want him in about 1 in 5 to 1 in 4 of my lineups. That's kind of how I'm approaching this.
Yeah. Although I do buy into a little bit the Truex stuff because we've seen it time and time again.
Yeah, it just keeps happening. So eventually a coincidence becomes a trend, right?
He is someone that I would prefer on like the books over DraftKings because DraftKings is priced up. He's really cheap out there in the books.
Yeah. Plus 1,800 is a nice number, or even for a plus 5 or a top 5 or a top 10.
Yeah, it's pretty decent. Odds. Really nice.
And JJT, I kind of agree with you, and not just based off his performance here in 2024, but I do feel like we have evidence of him being pretty comfortable in any conditions, including the rain. So,
yeah, the question is, if it gets postponed to Monday, does he inherit the Martin Truex Jr. buff on Monday as well?
Yeah, that could be too. Okay, Kyle Larson will start 9th. He's been pretty consistent at New Hampshire, not really dominant, but kind of aggressively consistent, and that's kind of what I expect here. Another 4th to 7th place finish. Probably not enough to hit the optimal, and it doesn't seem like in this year of all years when he's struggling as much or more than ever, he's never really dominated at New Hampshire, even when he had the best car in the field, so it doesn't feel like the dominator upside is really here.
I hate this play. Fuck, like, not like to overreact or anything, but like, I fucking am just getting sick of Kyle Larson looking like a good play and then just being egregiously mid when it comes to Sundays. Like, I'm starting to really not care what he does on Saturdays or even in like years prior. Cause I mean, this season, like you'd see in the speed ranks, he's been fucking awful at these short flat tracks.
Yeah.
Like get us in the intermediate package and I'll talk with you about Larson. I'll take some Larson then. But this package just has not been it for Hendrick, and we're really starting to see it in the books too.
I will say, if you want me to make a case,
I don't.
he would seem to have a pretty high floor, but a low ceiling. But that low ceiling becomes valuable if this gets rain shortened. If Larson goes 9th to 5th with only 150 dominator points on the board, he becomes a lot more interesting play than 9th to 5th on a 300 lap race.
I'm trying to win GPPs though. I kind of need ceiling.
Yeah, that's fair. Ty Gibbs starts 7th. This has been a miserable track for Ty Gibbs, though I think at this point we just need to throw out track history for Ty Gibbs because he continues to improve on every track type. But again, we talked about this a lot last week, and it kind of ended up biting us with Chase Briscoe. But no matter how much improvement you're making, you don't really go from a 15th to 20th place New Hampshire driver to all of a sudden being a top 5 New Hampshire driver. And that's kind of what we would need to see out of Ty Gibbs. And he did not look good in practice.
He did not take a second run in practice. He was another guy that just kind of called it quits after like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then did one qual run. And that run was okay. It was all right, but wasn't much to it.
Chance of rain today. Let's refresh. Let's see. I would say it's raining now, judging by Let's see.
And we're close enough to the coast that it's going to be really hard to predict.
Again,
we're not meteorologists.
I'm not a weatherman. Type 1 if you're a weatherman. But I mean, there is significant chance of rain through the entire afternoon. So, Sky Hunter, maybe is Sky Hunter our weatherman? Type 1 if you're a weatherman. Weather shouldn't be an issue at the start of the race. There is a bit of a chance. So yeah, maybe a start on wet tires and it clears up. Maybe the move, the time of the race being moved up will help. But very difficult to predict. Ty Dillon and Cody Ware, I think, were the ones going to the back so far.
Yeah, similar to last night or I guess yesterday, where the guys starting or the guys going to the rear are starting in the rear already, so it doesn't matter. But maybe SVG, we don't know.
Yeah, keep an eye on SVG, and as ever, keep an eye on Jay Ski or Bob Pockris. Okay, William Byron starts P3. There's been a little bit of discourse about him potentially being an early dominator here. New Hampshire's been an okay racetrack for him, not a great racetrack, though he did have a pretty good finish here last year. Just kind of in that Larson camp where, 5th to 10th feels about right with a low chance of domination. I'm probably not going to chase the domination script. I'm either Reddick has something figured out and he dominates early, Barry just kind of pulls away early, or Hamlin feels like the more likely option than Byron here.
I'm less out on Byron than I am Larson, but I'm still pretty much out.
Yeah.
Like I'm at 0% Larson, but I'll have like 5 to 10% Byron, like a just in case, just because the front row is really shaky.
Raining at the airport. Shout out Jay Swift. We'll talk about Barry here just in 2 seconds. Let me talk about Tyler Reddick first, who was terrible, notably terrible in practice, screaming on the radio as much as Tyler Reddick screams. I guess screaming is not the right word, but come on. I like Tyler Reddick. Reddick might be my favorite driver these days. I'm a big 2311 guy as a whole. He starts P1, surprisingly, but did not have much pace in practice. And with Barry on his door and Hamlin and Bell not far behind, Taco, you got him priced at ownership projected at 14%. I do agree. I think this could be some of the lowest pole sitter ownership we've seen all year. I'm not feeling the buzz around Tyler Reddick starting from the pole here. It kind of just feels like everyone's going to move to Barry or Hamlin here.
Yeah, Barry is the real pole sitter here. Just 5% on Kyle Sheep for the pole sitter is a little disappointing. I got the no at 10% when he first got the pole, and I was hoping it would grow. It didn't. Everyone knows that Reddick's going to go backwards here. He's been so bad. Finishes outside the top 10 the last 4 short flat tracks. Really, this whole last month, just the implosion from first place by a country mile to 4th place in points has been very short track of Tyler Reddick.
Yeah, and people wonder what happened to Tyler Reddick. We went to the Penske tracks. That's what happened. That's all that happened. We're going to go to Kansas and Las Vegas, and I think we've got a Darlington coming up, and we've got a Homestead. Reddick is all of a sudden going to be back.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be too worried, but I am concerned about his upside here. 10% feels right for me. 10% of the time he dominates the first stage. He gets bolstered if this gets rain shortened, but it seems like there's growing confidence, at least among Sky, that rain won't be as big of an issue as we think. So I'm kind of bearish on Tyler Reddick as a whole here.
This is the worst short flat track to have the pull at, I think, and just not be very good. Like if this was Martinsville, he could lead 100 laps, no problem. If this was even like Iowa, he could hold on to lead there because no one can pass. Everyone can pass here.
Yeah.
And most of the pole sitters here have been, the Penske guys, Truex or whatever, it makes sense they would hold on. But like Elliott got smoked immediately last year. Christopher fucking Bell got smoked immediately off the pole.
Yeah.
But there's no inherent pole sitter advantage.
Yeah. Chase Elliott, I think, is one of the better plays on this slate from a place differential perspective, and he had legitimate speed in practice. New Hampshire isn't a great racetrack for him, but he did lead some laps here back in 2024 before the rain came. But this is just kind of a high floor type of play that I think, and at 8,500, it makes it much more palatable.
Yeah, it's just the cash game lock. Starting 29th is his upside.
Yeah.
8,500 cheap.
Now the guy everybody wants to talk about is Josh Berry, who has skyrocketed to plus 550. All of a sudden, Josh Berry is the talk of the town. And honestly, for good reason. Josh Berry has been great here. And I would argue he was the fastest car here last year. He went to the back at least once, was fully wrecked one time, and still recovered to finish second. He was very good in practice, had by far the most fastest overall laps in practice. You know, the Penske connection gives him such a great boost at a place like New Hampshire. And we've seen him run very well. I would say my concern with Berry is if you look at Richmond and Iowa, both races that he performed very well, his calling card for the last 18 months has been his ability to manage equipment and come alive in the long runs. And that has kind of been the opposite of what we saw the last 2 weekends at Iowa and Richmond, where he seems to fall off a little bit on the long run. That is my biggest concern here, but I still think this is the true pole sitter. And while I probably wouldn't price him at 550, I do think he has race winning upside here. And I do think this is a really strong play.
Yeah.
Even at 8,200, which it doesnent feel right to play him at 8,200.
He doesn't even need to win. He just needs to dominate stage one and finish all right. Rewatching the race, the 2024 race, they'd mentioned like, wow, Berry all of a sudden came alive over the last month of the season. I feel like we get to this point of the year every year where, he's a worse one trick than SVG. If you look at his short flat track performances versus everywhere else where he's so bad and wrecks all the time. Still, he's still one to wreck a lot, wrecked at North Wilkesboro and Phoenix. I think he's a much worse play on FanDuel than DraftKings, but for DraftKings, like $8,200 for what is probably the top early dominator is always going to get really, really popular.
Yeah, I guess the concern here would be that Berry makes a lot of mistakes, and starting from second at 8,200 is a big ask.
Terrible pit crew.
Pit crew is a concern for sure. And also, as who was it, JT? Just mentioned, and I'm going to use Google here because I can't use Twitter because I'm not logged in.
Starting on wets, yeah.
NASCAR told the teams the current plan is to start today's under wet conditions, meaning the wet weather tire. That can change if conditions improve, but the teams are told to be ready. Excuse me. So, does that change? I mean, we can sit here and try to predict the consequences of that.
I mean, we've been kind of assuming that there's going to be either a start on wets or just, extra randomness added to this race already. So I feel like we've kind of factored that in.
Yeah.
There's not enough data to really know who's going to take advantage of that. But I mean, Berry's biggest concerns early on, of course, would be, Reddick, Byron, Bell, Hamlin, just the amount of passing that you can do early. But I mean, the thing he's got going for him is that Penske looks way faster than everyone else, and the next closest starting Penske starts all the way back in 8th.
Yeah, I will say, if we do start on wet tires, I think that closes the delta between Penske and JGR. And I think that almost makes me more bullish on Tyler Reddick, whose calling card for his whole career has been his car control.
Yeah.
If we are starting on wets and it's a true wet condition and we're probably going to stay on wet for the majority of the first stage, I tend to lean Tyler Reddick over Josh Berry because Reddick is just such a talented driver in unpredictable conditions.
And when he led the 50 laps in 2024?
Yeah.
On the wet tires.
Yeah. And
that's gross, by the way, that we're going to have to play Tyler Reddick at a short flat track off the pole.
But I also think this leads to variance too. Like we go back. I really encourage you guys to go watch the first restart on wet tires in 2024, where Bell went from 9th to 3rd in a corner. Like if we're in a true wet condition where there is significant dampness in the track, then that doesn't, all of a sudden Bowman could be a potential first stage dominator. All of a sudden Larson becomes a potential first stage dominator. It really throws a wrench in this.
Yeah. You've got Bell sitting there in 6th. Yeah. Scary.
Yeah. And I see all the concerns here with Josh Berry's ownership. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Like, how do you get leverage on Josh Berry if he's going to be 35% owned?
You don't, but it's so much easier to make builds, especially if you're hand building with Berry. Like, it's unbelievably easier to have your top dominator be $8,200.
Yeah. And as we approach race time, if it appears that we are starting on a true wet condition, I find myself wanting to be more and more underweight on Josh Berry. If this race is going to be primarily dry, I want to be match the field or over, but I want to spread this potential early domination a lot more if we're starting on wets.
And he was better. Like, he did really well in the 2024 wet race, but if you look at the lap by lap, like, he was better before the wet tires went on.
Yeah.
That's when he was getting all his fast laps in that.
Yeah. Any chance they delay the race? They will if it's raining. If there's if there's a small like drizzle or no rain at all and it's just damp, they'll race. If it's actively raining, they will delay the race for sure. They will not race if it's raining significantly. If
they pushed the start time up, and if they delay it an hour and just start when they were originally going to the race, that just feels like spiritually like Dawson Sutton replacing himself in his own car yesterday.
A cursed weekend of racing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that, and I'm repeating myself because I'm making justifications to myself in my own head. If we are starting on the wets and it is a true damp racetrack, and it seems that at least the first stage will be run under a damp condition, I am widening my outcome projections as far as how the first stage plays out, with a focus on Tyler Reddick being more viable.
Yeah, which he was not viable at all before. Like, if this goes standard, I'm playing like 3% of them, 5% of them. Now it's going to be more like 10% if it's going to be like this. And what does the wet news do to Byron and Hamlin? What does it do to anybody? I think what it does is just cranks up like the randomness and of this field, and kind of applies to everybody's, where it just becomes significantly harder to handicap. So you really just want to attack ownership more than anything.
Yeah, I think the ones we can confidently say, we have evidence of Christopher Bell being very good in rain conditions. Here specifically, we have evidence of Ryan Preece being somewhat capable in snowy conditions at Bowman Gray.
And Chicago, for what it's worth. He was good. He was really fast in the wets.
We know Shane Van Gisbergen has more experience than anybody driving a car in wet conditions.
It's not close.
No more in an oval, so doesn't really compare that 1-to-1, but maybe he has techniques related to making speed in wet conditions. And I feel like Ty Gibbs, was there like I'm going off memory here, but an all-star open race in the wet?
No, it was I'm trying to remember. Was it Ty Gibbs? I know Ty Dillon. Ty Dillon was the one that just randomly flew away with it, but that was at a road course. Yeah,
I think for some reason I have in my memory Ty Gibbs being pretty impressive in wets, but again, we just don't have stock cars on an oval racing in wet conditions is such a bespoke kind of thing that it's hard to make any projections.
We have a very small sample size of that, and like 70% of that sample is under yellow. So
chaotic conditions.
This is a big like shoulder shrug week, and we're not afraid to admit that. That's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah. Okay, let's try to get through a couple of these because I want to give you guys more time to keep an eye on what the weather's going to do and how it affects your lineup. So Bubba Wallace starts 23rd. Fine racetrack for him, but he's had some pretty bad runs and just seems out of form right now. Doesn't seem to have a lot of pace in general right now. So I think this is a fine play, but what's the upside? Like, he's been running outside of the top 10 on these racetracks, and that wouldn't be enough to hit the optimal.
Yeah, this is another guy like Ty Gibbs who only took one single run in practice. So he's going to look way worse than he actually is. And his speed was like right there with Ty Gibbs and pretty much everyone else. So I'm not overactive these practice times. I don't care about that. I do care that he's been pretty aggressively mid this season on the short flat tracks, even the last couple of years, really. This was a strong suit for him before, and we've seen him in spots like North Wilkesboro look decent, but I don't know. I'm just not really in on this play. There are much better plays around here. Like, I mean, we're about to talk to one that's probably going to be one of the chalkiest plays on the entire slate.
race going to be over by the time you get to the end. I know, I babble. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm going to bang through these. Austin Cindric starts 26. That's kind of just going to be an obvious place differential play with the Penske connections, but I find myself underweight here. This hasn't been a great racetrack for him, and make of what you will with this practice. He only made one run, whatever. But even still, while his team has had speed here for the last 4 years, he has not had a top 10 run here and not even shown top 15 speed. In fact, he's been quite bad here. So I find myself wanting to be underweight.
Yeah. I mean, this is another guy that Cindric also just took no laps after the first 30 minutes of practice. So yeah, he's someone else we just don't know much about speed wise, but probably, I don't know. It just the ownership, or for attacking ownership, you got to kind of go under on a Cindric, and especially if the wets are gonna nerf Penske specifically. He's still going to be in the cash game and all that, but for GPP, it would make sense to go under on just the ownership.
Ross Chastain's a guy I don't mind here. New Hampshire's been a really solid racetrack for him. Top 10s in 3 of 4 with top 15 speeds and all of those as well. Looked fine in practice. I think Trackhouse is trending in the right direction. Mm-hmm. And I think Ross is one of those types of guys who I don't know if rain necessarily benefits him, but I don't think it hurts him at all. I think his skill set probably leans into that. I don't mind. This is one of the spots I don't mind getting a little bit of leverage, even if the place differential isn't really there.
Horrible start to the season, but he's gotten better since this last month. He's actually looked like a race car driver again.
Chris Buescher starts 16th, another guy that doesn't have a lot of success at New Hampshire outside of that one rain race in 2024. So maybe that's in his favor, but not a guy we look at a lot at short tracks. A fine place differential play, fine sprinkle play, but not somebody I'm looking to get a ton of exposure on.
Yeah, no.
Much prefer Brad Keselowski if this was going to be a dry race. But I still think it's a fine play in the wet. Overall, I like this play. I think Brad Keselowski is really good at New Hampshire. He's had a couple bad runs here, but that doesn't really speak to his ability here. Though I will say, I think a wet condition nerfs him a little bit, but I still probably have a little bit of leverage on Brad Keselowski. I think this is where some of my Austin Cindric ownership will end up.
Keselowski, I think, is stuck for the next few weeks. It's just being a pure gambling play. He's the raw single entry GPP only play where he's just going to take whatever. He's going to do whatever it takes to try to get into the playoffs. He's going to be taking 0 tires or just doing wild strategies. So he's got a negative floor. Yeah. And, of course, he could have crazy upside with that, although we haven't really seen him hit on that sort of thing in quite a while. And he's also much better at the other tire combination that we have used at short tracks and not so good on the soft one.
Ryan Preece starts 18th. We saw him be pretty good in wet conditions or damp conditions at Bowman Gray earlier this year. And New Hampshire is a really good racetrack for him. Finished 3rd in the modifieds yesterday, though do not base anything that happens in modified racing to what happens in Cup Series racing. But 2 top 15s in a row here. Pretty solid speed on these correlated tracks in 2026. Starts 18th. I think the upside is top 10, but maybe not quite a top 5. Don't really know what to make of him in the rain. I think this is a fine play. 15% feels about right.
I love Priest at the short flat tracks, but he feels like all floor. There's not enough upside for him here in this spot. I mean, if anything, the rain does bolster him. He just had too much floor and not enough ceiling for me coming in. Maybe he has a little bit more ceiling here with the wet tires potentially, but I don't know. Not someone I was really targeting.
Hocevar, money shift Hocevar, starting 22nd. Boy, I really don't know what to make of him in the rain. But New Hampshire's a fine racetrack for him. I don't mind getting some exposure here. He's just really out of form right now. Last 2 races have been terrible. Had the incident last week with the transmission. Didn't look great in practice, so I think he was another one of those guys that just made one long run. This is a fine play, but I'm probably not going to go much above 20, and that might not get me leverage on him.
He's one of many guys who will be very happy that this month of short track racing is over because his shenanigans just don't work here, and he's just genuinely been bad.
Alex Bowman starting 10th. He would need a career best run at New Hampshire in the next gen to hit value here.
Shout out the top 10 last week at Richmond. But yeah, starting 10th, there's nothing you can do to make optimal, I don't think, unless, that crazy thing you mentioned earlier, like him leading stage 1 on wet tires or something happens, but realistically, nah.
SVG starts 5th. Still some concern about him going to the rear. Haven't heard anything. So as of right now, he starts and will start 5th. I think the wet conditions help him. He's improved a ton. And when he qualifies up here, he tends to stay here. I don't know. I think the increased randomness of this situation, well, this making speed on track probably benefits him. The rest of the chaos that goes around SVG in a wet condition might nerf him a little bit. But now I'm thinking back to Bowman Gray. He was quite good in wet conditions until he got wrecked. So I think there's some viability here. 10 to 12% feels right. And if that lands me overweight on him, then good.
I mean, he's had fast lap counts in the teens at places like Richmond, North Wilkesboro, Martinsville, led 48 laps at North Wilkesboro. And those have all come when he's qualified in the top 10. He's been able to stay in the top 10 those entire races. North Wilkesboro in particular, he was one of the best cars there. Recently, we've seen him come more from the rear, and he was able to end up optimal from the rear last week at Richmond. Here, starting 5th, again, he could have another one of those performances. The risk of him going to the rear, that would absolutely kill him, I think. There's no way to make value going to the rear, so just keep an eye out.
And somebody can remind me, but if memory serves, he was leading in the rain at Bowman Gray and got spun from the lead or from the front row, if I remember correctly. So,
like the heat?
No, in the main event, in the race. If I'm remembering correctly.
I thought Blaney led the whole. No, Blaney didn't lead any of that, right? He just came from the back.
Yeah, he had to come from the back a couple times.
Yeah,
I will check after this and update in the Discord, but yeah, maybe some upside for Shane Van Gisbergen, but it probably looks like 12% max for me. Austin Dillon has fine racetrack form. Didn't look great in practice, but does have a couple top 15s here, and has been pretty consistently running in the top 20. You've got him projected at 21%. I actually thought he would end up a little higher owned than that. And, I kind of have him pegged at like 25 to 27% feels about right. And I thought that would make me underweight, but if that makes me overweight, then great.
I think the big driving factor in that is that 19th at Richmond may as well be a 38th place finish.
Yeah.
That was extremely disappointing. He's 600 to 1 as well. Just seems like all the sauce is gone there.
Thoughts on fading 80 and Suarez with them starting in the back. This is such a long, it's a long lap, though it's a short track. It's a long lap, and the pace will be even slower if it's going to be in a wet condition. So I don't have much concern about them getting lapped early.
Oh, I don't think many people get lapped at all. The last 3 years, I think it's 24, 25, and 27 guys on the lead lap. I may be off by a position or two, but 2022, actually, we should just delete it from the research station. The 2022 race does not count because that was on a hard tire. 15 guys finished on the lead lap there. Once they switched to the soft tire and gotten the caution counts up and all that, we've seen most of the field finish on the lead lap. So it's really not that big of a concern.
Yeah, and that's another great point.
Stuff,
That's another great point. If this starts on wets, it's going to be a lot of cautions early. So
yeah.
Daniel Suarez, I like a little more than Austin Dillon. I think he's had really good speed on this series of tracks: Richmond, Iowa, North Wilkesboro. New Hampshire is not a great racetrack for him, but these Spire cars are better than ever right now, and I think he can pay off a 35th place starting spot. I like this play a lot.
I mean, this car spun 8 times in 2024 and finished 23rd. So I guess it's blessed magically. I just think this play is so much better than Dillon. All the ownership's coming here. So I guess the smart ownership play would be to play Dillon over Suarez. Actually.
Yeah, in theory, they're very similar plays. So it becomes an ownership dance. Connor Zilic starts a little too high, and I don't think the carnage of rain will serve him very well, though I guess we don't know. He definitely has some Trans Am experience in the wet. So, maybe you can tell yourself a story in here, but in theory, they're starting to price him up a little, and starting 20th, he would need a bit of a career best run.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a low own play, there you go.
Yeah,
it does not feel good, but
he probably has as much rain experience as anybody else on this field because he did run in the rain a lot as a road course driver. So Eric Jones starts 11th. This track is not nearly big enough for me to play Eric Jones starting 11th. And on the NASCAR reported sheet, he was at the top of the board, so he might even go a little over-owned.
Yeah, cool qual lap, bro. How'd that work out for you? 11th? All right, you are going to be 2% owned, and I'm going to be underweight. This is not it.
Michael McDowell, I find myself having a little bit of leverage on. This has been a really strong racetrack for him. For a long time, they talked about the road course guys being good at a place like New Hampshire. I don't think that ever ended up really being the case, but for whatever reason, Michael McDowell gets around here pretty good, and we know the Spire cars are better than ever. So I don't mind getting a little exposure, a little leverage here. Concern would be he has been very bad the last couple of weeks, like outside of the top 25 bad. So he would really need a turn in performance.
Mm-hmm. We do know that, he was the one that took out Blaney in this rain race a couple of years ago, but he was running third place when he did that with 9 laps to go. Like, he's been genuinely really good at this track. Yeah. I do think he's kind of like, he has like a hard ceiling of like 15th place anymore for whatever reason. Like, his upside is not there, even at tracks that he's been good at in the past. So I kind of hesitate to really get in on McDowell too much here.
I think the Riley Herbst experiment is over because he's priced up, starting to get a lot of ownership now. The value that existed earlier in the year has largely been extracted, I think. And while I think he can run borderline top 20 here, I'm not even sure at this salary and exposure or ownership level that would be enough. So I don't have a lot of Riley Herbst this week.
He'll be happy to get intermediate tracks back. This just hasn't been a month for him.
Zane Smith and all of the front row cars qualified very well, but 14th at a track where he has never finished inside the top 25. I'm not going to chase very hard here.
No, we can bang through him.
AJ Allmendinger starts 24th. He's finished top 20 in every race he's started here. So maybe a little bit of upside for AJ, and I do think the rain probably helps him a little bit. It just doesn't feel right playing colleague cars this year, but he continues to perform. So I think you can get some. This is a spot you can play.
Had the outlier finish at Iowa on the different tire combo. I don't know. We're starting to get to the range where you're gonna have to plug your nose and play some of these guys because really none of the plays like $6,400 and cheaper are really any good. Yeah. Well, you need to go here if you want to afford Blaney. So it depends on how much like Blaney and Hamlin you're gonna play is the amount that you're gonna be playing these guys.
And at a certain point, depending on the level of rain we get today, you almost start to treat these like Talladega, Daytona type plays. Absolutely. Where the place differential is just inherent. Excuse me. John Hunter Nemechek legitimately is a strong play. I think this is a great racetrack for him. The legacy cars are better than ever. I know we've started to see Eric Jones break out, but I think John Hunter has been right there, just hasn't had the same, or just has had some bad luck over the course of this stretch. I wouldn't be surprised to see him push for a top 20 here.
Okay, so I had a slight typo when making the sheet this week. I accidentally made this the New Hampshire race. Fixed on the main sheet, but Brady has immortalized the race here. But if you look more importantly to the right of New Hampshire, what does it say? The Dollar Tree 301. He took a very rare Truck Series rep here this week, I guess, getting ready for his sponsor race because he will be plastered in Dollar Tree. And he's going to be plastered in ownership as well. I think this is the punt that everyone's going to end up on. And while he does seem like the best play in this range, I think just if we're going to be playing the ownership game, I think just fundamentally we have to go underweight on him.
You can go underweight on. I'm playing John Hunter.
Yeah.
I think that's a good play. I think it's a good track for him.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think he's going to end up pretty popular. I think he'll go higher than that 23%.
Todd Gilliland, another one of those front row guys that overqualified. He starts 13th. Hard to hit value from that spot.
Nope.
Austin Hill, just a bit of a carnage play. He has not been super relevant at any of these short tracks. He did have a decent finish, or at least a decent run at Richmond last week, but that was at Richmond where we know the RCR cars in theory should be running pretty well. I'd be surprised to see him run well here, but a fine carnage play in a rain scenario.
I mean, there's going to be carnage. He has the same odds as John Hunter Nemechek and is starting right next to him. Like the ownership, he's going to have 1/4 of the ownership of John Hunter Nemechek. What's the? I don't want to play Austin Hill. I'm just trying to math it out. Like it probably doesn't make sense for JHN to be 4 times the ownership of Hill, but he will be.
Yeah. Noah Gragson starts 19th. He's been running really well, and this is probably the most palatable of the front row cars for me. That doesn't mean I'm going to play him at 20 or 30%, but 10% feels all right for Noah Gragson.
He was also good at Bowman Gray, was he not?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. Yep. So I mean, yeah,
looked okay in practice too.
He's a plug your nose and play guy. I think he's the exact same as like Stenhouse for me. His upside just kind of beats out his place differential starting spot here. Like, you guys are all top 15 shot.
Yeah.
With the scenario.
More rain, the better when it comes to Ricky Stenhouse. If it's going to be a carnage rain race, I really like this play. If this is just going to be a normal dry race, I don't. But in the wet conditions, I like Stenhouse. I like him in chaotic conditions. And if it's just going to be a pure place differential race, then I like this play starting from 30th. So the more, if you're doing your chaos builds, I like Stenhouse a lot.
Yeah, and mathing it out against JHN, again, you're saving $400, and he's starting for the exact same spot for probably less than half the ownership of JHN. Another spot you could get different here, and doesn't have a top 10 here in the rain race in 2024.
Same can be said about Custer and Dillon and maybe Ware if you want to get real crazy, if you think it's going to be real carnage. But these are all fine. Just like approach them as Talladega Daytona type of plays.
I'm ending up on a lot of Ty Dillon, and I think. Of course, since you fight in the DS, but I think it just makes sense to punt all the way down. And by all the way down, I mean Ty Dillon, because why would you play Cody Ware? He's Cody Ware. But I don't see the issue with Dillon or even, I guess, Custer. It really doesn't pop off in a spot like this, right? It's just if there's going to be raw carnage, like these are raw carnage plays.
Listen, let's not rewrite history here. John Hunter Nemechek was Corey Heim before Corey Heim was Corey Heim. John Hunter Nemechek is a good driver. I think that says more about the 5 truck than anything. But we know John Hunter is capable.
Saying JHN can't drive a truck, I apologize very much, Chatter, but that's a not knowing ball take.
Yeah, John Hunter
is a beast on the truck series, at least when he was in there full time.
But JJT, you are right. Anything but a cup car, John Hunter has been a demon. He hasn't been able to parlay that into any cup success. So you are right in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there it is. Every single driver in the field. I want to skip the sim today because it's going to be useless in a wet condition anyway, and I don't want to mislead you guys. So I want to go right to the Dom station and start building, or at least do the settings, and then we will do our picks and our fantasy picks, and we'll get you guys out of here with some time to make some lineups before we get kicked off here. But Taco, how are you setting up the Dom station today?
We can keep this brief. We're gonna jack up the randomization to like 18%, which is insanely high. But I mean, that's just the type of race we're at today, tournament, and I think we're locked into at least one Dom. That is just the right way to go.
Yeah.
You look at the previous race in these conditions. You've got your one dominator. The rest, boom, all the way through. Like, could get multiple, sure. That's why it's at least. We're not doing at most. At least one is going to be perfect. There's a lot of place differential you can get to, but you will need at least one person starting up in the top 10.
Yeah.
The data has shown that quite a bit. You could do 40% of everyone. I think that's fine. You could maybe bump up Elliot Logano, right?
Yeah.
Or even like Blaney, but you're not getting more than 40% Blaney. I don't think it'll even math that high. You pretty much send it, you're good to go. You'll probably need a set of min on Reddick if you want to get any, which I would recommend doing, even if it's just 5%, just because he is starting on the pole and could lead laps early. As much as I hate the Reddick play, at least just drop a min on him if you're mass multi-entering, and you're pretty much good to go here.
How much Barry you're looking to get now that we're starting on what? It's hard to do live here. I got to go see the scope of the situation before I give you a solid answer. But it's certainly, I mean, if I was going to play him at like 30 to 33% owned before. It's probably your range is probably on the lower end of your range, Angelo, 22 to 25 if it's going to be a serious wet condition. If it's just going to be like wet for the first 30 lap run and then it's going to dry out, then it changes the math a little bit. I got to check it out, but at a glance, JJT, I watched the race yesterday. I know what John Hunter is capable of. Fair. That is fair. He was a weapon yesterday. Okay. Yeah. Let me run this. I don't know if you'll glean anything from it, but
you'll have to. I mean, if you're not rerunning this like 10 times after making adjustments between each, what are we doing? But
really get in the weeds with this.
One quick like macro question for this slate: how do you feel about just slightly bumping up all the guys who are like deep in the 30s on practice because they only took one run, assuming that the rest of the field is going to look at that incorrectly and say they're slow?
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be more relevant once we get to the chase. Like Daytona, obviously it won't matter. And then we'll get into the chase. I think our advantage will in analyzing the new practice format will come. I don't care much this week about practice to begin with.
Fair.
So
yeah, absolutely fair.
But I would keep that in your back pocket because when we get to Darlington and Bristol and Kansas and Vegas, I think we will have some advantage when it comes to analyzing the new practice format.
Yep.
Okay. Let's just head right over.
Gritty. Yeah, this
Taco with 2 wins in a row. Listen, I would have picked Logano last week. Hands up. I would have picked Logano last week, but didn't get the opportunity to. But so, chat, to catch you up to speed, we're going to do a win pick and we're going to do a best DFS pick. Who's going to be the highest scoring DFS play this week? I need to start with your guys' win pick. Last week, you guys got on the board with Joey Logano, your 3rd or 4th win of the season. Good job, chat. So I need your win pick for New Hampshire. Who you guys think will win? Put your guess in the chat. Well, I put my guess in the chat. Who do I think's going to win today, Taco, as you go for 3 in a row?
It's a tough one, yeah. I mean, what a way to turn around the season. The first half of the season so far, just one win pick, and it was SVG at a road course. Woohoo. Like 4 wins since then? Not been bad.
Man, it really
3 in a row, no pressure.
Sky Hunter's going with Reddit as his win pick. Very interesting.
Ooh-wee.
I think I tend... Man, it's so hard not knowing the full scope of how the rain is going to play out, but I guess that's what makes this so interesting.
This is a tough week for the win pick, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to stick with Blaney, hoping this race dries out and it just kind of plays out naturally. I'm going to go with Blaney. He was my pick all week. I can't change now.
That's fair.
We've got a lot of bells. Bell. We got an SVG. We got a Bell, a Reddick. Phil Matthews is going crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the chat's definitely getting Bell, which makes a ton of sense. Like, a lot of sense. It's New Hampshire and it's Bell. Usually you don't have to overthink that. I'm inclined to agree here, honestly, chat. I mean, I'm not going to go Barry. That'd be ridiculous. I don't know. That's just the L take. I think it has to be Bell.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like it. I agree. I like that pick too. I think people are overlooking Hamlin here, but the wet conditions complicating that. Okay, next up, we're going to do our 36 for 36 best fantasy pick. Me and Taco can only use each driver once this season, and we're getting down to a very short list of drivers that we have access to. But chat, you can pick whoever you want. Who do you think is going to have the best DFS day? Who's going to score the most fantasy points? Not necessarily who's going to win. Who's going to score the most fantasy points today? You can pick anyone. Put your picks in the chat. Wendy, I wouldn't do any groups today with how crazy this race stands to be. I don't think there's any reason to group any drivers.
You could maybe, if you're doing 150, you could splash like 5 groups of Penske in there in case it's like last week. But again, with the rain tires, that does complicate things. If it was a dry race, I would be way more interested in that group. Question with you is, are you just going to go Josh Berry? Is this Josh Berry week?
I probably would have if the rain wasn't such a factor.
Yeah.
But with the rain being a factor, do I get real wild with a pick here? We got a Suarez pick. We got a Logano pick. I think that Logano one is good. Suarez, Coca-Cola 600 repeat. I like that. Blaney just seems safe. I wonder if a fella like me gets a guy like Cole Custer off the board and hope for pure carnage. That's a very risky proclamation.
That's a smart way to go about it this week. It's just an unpredictable race. Like, let's be very transparent about it with the race. With all this stuff coming up, it might just be a week to get one of those guys out of the way.
I think that's the way I want to go. I think I'm going to go Cole Custer. And this is a 36 for 36 strategy play. This is not me stumping for Cole Custer. I think this is strategically just a good play for me here.
Yeah, I would consider Josh Berry here. It's just I have a lead, and so I'm playing defensively. And I think that chat is absolutely cooking it. Ken and Sky Hunter, the objectively correct play here, playing Suarez, because we've already gotten through 2 Atlanta races and haven't been able to use Suarez. Yeah, I think it's just Daniel Suarez time.
Yeah, I don't hate that play whatsoever. So let's go Daniel Suarez. Chat, are we in agreement? We had a Suarez, Logano, Suarez,
they're
Blaney,
still
Logano. I think they're going Logano actually.
Yeah,
I don't hate it.
Solid.
Let's give you Logano.
He is the best play. We've both used Logano so far to varying levels of success.
Okay, before we get you out of here, and I want to get you out soon, so we'll skip most of it, but I do want to look at DraftKings.
Some unders should be in play, right?
Say it again.
Some unders should be in play with the rain.
I would think so, and I would think
that looks juicy.
Yeah, 52 laps led seems like a lot.
He's gonna get 1 like Bell last year.
Well, I'm not sure I'm that bullish, but yeah, I would lean less
They're wrecking lap 1, bro.
And fast laps could get complicated in a rain condition. But yeah, I'd be half tempted if it's going to rain and they're going to race in the rain. Take a pick here. Like, I don't know what's jumping out here. I mean,
Ty Gibbs worse than 8.5.
I don't know. I mean, you could really just pick any of these and just hope for a chaos race. Like, treat this like a Talladega where you would just pick worse on everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that Tyler Reddick lap line looks a little funky to me, but maybe more viable in a rain condition where he just gets the lead and they are under yellow for the first 50 laps of the race.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels very strange to see Barry at 7.5, but I get it.
Yeah. Okay. That's the show. That's it. I want to get you guys back an hour until green flag. There's a lot of information to process before then. So hop in the Discord if you're not. dfsarmy.com/NASCAR. Link for everything is in the bio. We got a crazy race tonight, and then mark it on your calendar, the most chaotic race of the year next weekend.
Hell yeah.
We've got back-to-back carnage races. Never a better time to be a DFS Army member. dfsarmy.com/NASCAR. Link is in the bio. Taco, I think it's time you take it away, brother.
Oh, I cannot wait for Snake Draft Week next week. It's going to be so sick. All right, guys. Some rainy helmets up today, and let's go make some money in the goddamn thunderstorm at New Hampshire tonight, baby. Hell yeah.